Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Simracersworld TV, and welcome to Autodromo Nazionale di Monza and the Porsche Club GB Sim Racing Series. My name is Chaz Draycott. Joining me again this week is Jack Werrell and Peter MacKay. The Dream Team is back with you on a Sunday afternoon, everybody. Jack, just starting with you, mate. The Temple of Speed and Porsches. Couldn't want much more on this afternoon, could we?
No, we really couldn't. I can't say it enough. I love the sound of these cars and being able to hear them at full chat out of a Ascari round Parabolica and then the run up the start-finish straight again. It's going to be an absolutely amazing sounding evening, and I'm hoping, or afternoon. See, I've swapped with you. I've got them confused. But yeah, it's going to be an amazing sounding afternoon. I'm hoping an even better looking one because we've had a couple of sort of rounds where they're quite twisty and technical circuits, obviously at Donington and Laguna Seca for the first 4 rounds. So I think this is going to be a bit of a culture shock for everybody because they've got to also now take into account the draft because it's never really played more of a part until we got here. So it's going to be going into the unknown for a lot of these guys, and let's hope that the formula for amazing racing can stick with us.
And what do you reckon as well, Peter, just to bring you in, mate, with such a strong focus always coming to Monza being slipstream, do you reckon that the other guys that may not have so much experience in that will have to think about other things tonight to try and get their way, or is it going to be just be a slipstreaming fest and a bit of mind games, do you reckon?
Yes, I think a lot of the drivers are going to have to approach this round with a completely different strategy. You know, as you say, the slipstreaming is so important here at Monza, and I think that's going to be most pertinent in qualifying because, of course, here we have a group qualifying session. So the tow in qualifying, I mean, round here at Monza, you could be gaining anywhere between half a second and a second a lap if you follow the right person and get the aerodynamic slipstream at the right time. But the other thing we must consider is braking. The really big challenge with really any racing 911, particularly those like these ones that have the engine in the right in the rear, the braking is very tricky, and adjusting the brake bias accordingly is a real skill. So I think the drivers that we're going to see do well today are the ones that really master the braking on these 911 Cup cars. But it's brilliant because it gives us great opportunity for slipstreaming and for big moves on the brake. So I think we should be treated to some good racing today.
Well, let's certainly hope so, gentlemen. Let's certainly hope so. We'll take a look at some of the cars out on track. And, well, as Jack said, the beautiful noise from these Porsche 911 Cup cars. We have a couple of drivers that we haven't seen yet this season jumping in with us. Both of them are actually typically in the pits at the moment, in the big group there that you can see just staying in the shade. We have William Chadwick joining us, and Dave Cameron. Anyone that is familiar with sim racing will know of Dave. He's doing a great job on the YouTube scene at the moment, streaming a lot of his racing on there. He's a very popular bloke, so he's definitely showing us that he's got the pace tonight as well. Here's Austin Greatorex in 5th place at the moment. And speaking of positions, actually, we'll have a quick look at the championship standings for you, which typically are becoming one of my very best friends, as you can see, everybody. Bear with me. There you go. So Ryan Parkins leads the championship on 88 points. He has an 18-point gap over Austin, who we were just looking at there. Carl Sharkey is another 13 points back. And he, again, 12 points ahead of Johnny Elia. So it's quite close between all of these guys, to be honest, Jack. And obviously, as you go a bit further down, there's 3 drivers there with 41 points each. Dorrington, Bo, and Kyle Henney. But obviously, Dorrington and Kyle Henney not here tonight. So a lot of these have got to take advantage of the fact that not everyone's going to keep turning up each week. And some guys are going to miss rounds, aren't they?
Yeah, they really will. It's not really a place for emotion either, because obviously you've got two drivers that aren't going to be racing, and you can't think, oh, well, I feel bad for them. You've just got to go for it and take all the positions and all the points while you can get them for free, because obviously, as far as I'm aware, we're not going to see Kyle Henney for the rest of the season, and I'm pretty sure it's a similar story for Dorrington as well. But you never know, they might make a surprise appearance later on in the season, which a lot of these guys might not be expecting. So you've got to grab every point as soon as you can get it, and obviously the more positions you gain in race 1 will put you further back for race 2 as well. So you've got to take that into account, whether it's best just to stay passive and stay at the back in race 1 and just hope that you're going to get all those points in race 2. It's proper modulation of what you're going to do with how aggressive you are behind the wheel of these cars, but also how defensive you've got to be, because as soon as you lose a position, that's potentially points just disappearing into the distance.
Yeah, definitely. And every round counts. I mean, in any championship scenario, we all know from, I'm sure, watching plenty of motorsport that you can sort of look back on one individual round, can't you, Peter, where you'll think, oh, maybe that may actually be a pivotal point in the championship. Like, you might not know it at this point, but I mean, some of these guys just finishing 1 or 2 places higher than where they could have been, or making a mistake here and there, it can change your championship completely down the line, can't it?
Yes, it does, and you know it's actually we've seen so far in the 4 races at Donington and Laguna Seca. You know, we've seen a lot of calamity and a lot of cars in the barriers, and I think, as I said many times, keeping it safe is particularly here at Monza. If you can get through the opening lap or 2, particularly going down into turn 1, you've got a good chance of a good result, because you can actually, as long as you stay in touch with the faster cars in front of you, you can hang on to them, because of course the draft is so important here at Monza. And for our viewers, what that means is basically the car in front is punching a 911 Porsche shaped hole in the air for you, more or less, and it effectively reduces the air resistance on your car and therefore makes it travel through the air a little bit easier and therefore faster. So we see pack racing is really, really important here at Monza, and I think today is going to be absolutely critical. I think the other thing we've got to watch out for as well is the curbs at Monza. They're going to see Oliver Carradine come through here, and this particular chicane here at Ascari, it's very easy to get the car hopping over there, and when the tires are cold, it's very easy to spin.
Yeah, it can really unsettle the car one way or the other. If you take too much curb on the way in, it can really sort of hop the car out wide, and then you hit the curbs on the right as well. So Ascari is really one where the drivers have to have their wits about them. I'm sorry if there's any jumping going on at the moment, everybody. It's a little bit of an issue I've been having these last few days with my PC. I think it's time to finally sort out an upgrade. But my internet's not been the best either this week. We had a massive thunderstorm here last night, and I was broadcasting a race from Monza then. And let me tell you, it was far from an ideal scenario. But we'll try and persist. We'll do our very best for you. Oh, actually, Carradine's gone a little bit deep into there, and we're going to see a lot of that, aren't we? This afternoon, Jack, where people will want to try and brake as late as they can, as William Chadwick there in one of the touring editions that Peter knows and loves. It's going to be a bit difficult for these guys to get it settled on the brakes, isn't it?
It really will be, because we've said it like time and time again, and we're going to say it again, that just pack racing around here is really key. But obviously, if you're towards the tail end of that pack, you're going to be picking up 4, 5, maybe even 6 cars worth of draft. So you're going to have all that extra speed going into the corner, and to slow that down, maybe when you're not expecting it as well, you might even just lock up a brake because of sympathy. Say if somebody in front slows down a little too early, and you just jump on the brakes, that can lock it up. And whether you collect the car in front of you or you just spin round, it's proper focusing stuff going around here. And I was thinking a little earlier on as well that if you're a leader, it's going to be so much harder to get that buffer and get that gap from the car behind, because they are in the draft, and about a second behind you, you're still picking up bits of aerodynamic benefit from the car ahead. So it's going to be sort of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, because you can't pull out a gap to a great extent because they're going to be with you, and you don't want to defend because you lose the position, but you also want to let them by so then you can sit in the draft. So it's really going to be, like you said at the start, a very mind game sort of afternoon.
That's it, and we're going to see a lot of that. Some of these guys, you probably think, oh, he's going to overtake him now in the slipstream, but we may not see that happen. That's the thing. There's going to be a lot of guys holding back. Obviously, they don't need to worry about saving fuel or anything over the course of these races, 20-minute races each. So they're not going to be thinking long run here, Peter. They're not going to be sort of thinking, oh, it's an endurance race, I need to just think about when I need to pit and so on. While it is still a sprint race and these guys are going to go at it as hard as they can, there is going to be a little bit of mind games in terms of who's going to be the one in front coming onto the last lap, because sometimes you've seen people, I'm sure, go past at the beginning of the lap or halfway round, but then that puts them obviously out of the slipstream for the final corner. So it's a real sort of game of chess, isn't it, but with Porsches?
It is, yeah, a very expensive game of chess with Porsche 911 Cup cars. I think that's where you make an interesting point there about the kind of mind aspect, because I think that's going to give an advantage to the drivers who have been in this paddock from the very beginning. So guys like Carl Sharkey, Austin Greatorex, people like that, because they have spent a lot of time on track with one another. So they're going to know, also Paul Riga here on camera, he would be another one. Whereas they're going to know who's maybe slightly slower than them, and they're also going to know who's going to be slightly quicker than them. And that knowledge is crucial to decide if you want to sit behind somebody in the draft and just let them drag you along, or if you think, no, they're going to slow me up, I've got to get by. So that's going to be a challenge for our wildcard entries of guys like Dave Cameron, who obviously is showing great pace in second place in this practice session, and also William Chadwick, who has run some races with us in the Porsche Club of Great Britain, but not too many. So watch for the more experienced guys of this paddock to have a little advantage in that perspective.
They certainly will. And qualifying is now underway, everybody. So this will be the first chance that we see these guys to go all out now and give us their very best pace. The first car out of the pit lane there is the number 25 of Ryan Parkins, championship leader, of course, at the moment. And he's done it in quite a subtle way so far. He's not one of these drivers that's really flown away with all of his results. He's just been there or thereabouts. Took a couple of wins, of course. He took a win last time out of the Guinness-Seeker. But in terms of championship performance so far, Jack, it's not the most dominant that we've seen. But even still, in a championship at this point, no matter how experienced you are, you have to just sort of find your feet with your competitors around you in the first few rounds, don't you?
You really do, and it's been a couple of races of attrition, if I can put it politely. There's been a bit of touring car driving, some contact here and there, and a couple of cars going back a little second hand. But it's one of those things. You don't necessarily have to dominate every round, because that then can lead to inconsistency, and inconsistency we know doesn't win races, and it definitely doesn't win championships. So just keeping it consistent, and like we've seen, Ryan, he's had some absolutely amazing results. Just keeping it in that top 5 margin has got him those points in, so he can then take or start to take top honours at the top of the championship. And I'm going to throw it over to Peter, because obviously you've got more experience in this than I do, and I'm not sure about Chaz, but in terms of consistency in real life championships, does it play to such great effect as it will in sim racing, or is it more just dominate every round and cross the line first in every race just to get all the points?
Well, we saw last time out Ryan Ratcliffe, who's not with us this week, his other engagements, but he's a real world racer, and we've probably seen him make quite a lot of mistakes so far in the championship, and we've seen a lot of the guys who are purely from the sim racing world doing very well. Ryan Parkins on screen right now, he does have real world racing experience, and I think that really shows as well. But as many avid followers of the sim racing world will know, that seat time is absolutely vital. It's the more time you can spend behind the wheel, the better, because, as I say, it's not like real world racing where even if you've got unlimited budget, your testing time is still unlimited. It's still limited. Sorry, you're not going to be able to get behind the wheel every day, even with, as I say, with an hypothetical unlimited budget. So, but with sim racing, really, as much time as you can give to it, you can just switch on the computer and off you go. So that seat time is vitally important, particularly with this car, which has got a bit of a reputation as the most fickle car on the iRacing simulator, and requires a very unique driving style which takes a while to bed in. So yeah, that's going to be critical to watch. Also, I think now that we're getting started in our qualifying session, I think we're going to see some fun and games in the qualifying session, because that draft is no more important than it is here at Monza. And we saw at Donington, Caravan Carl Sharkey hooking in behind Matthew Dorrington and getting a really good step up the grid by basically following the fastest guy and using that to his advantage. Now, if someone can do that, maybe get behind Parkins, or maybe even Dave Cameron or Chadwick or somebody like that, you could really drag yourself up the field. So let's see if Carl Sharkey is going to apply the same policy again.
Yeah, I can tell you from doing a lot of qualifying sessions around here at Monza, that is definitely the way to do it. And especially in a championship like this, where these guys don't really have teammates. Obviously, they will have a couple of friends that they may be chatting away with, whether that be on TeamSpeak or Discord, as Parkins sets the fastest lap, ideally, being the first car to do a time. These guys may have to find someone to work together, or just someone they're mates with, like I say. And that can make all the difference around here to getting a decent lap time in, especially when everyone's on the track at once as well. It's not like these guys are all in a lone qualifying session, as the sim racing world, the magic of the sim racing world can give us, where you are literally just on the track on your own. But it's all about making the most of the space. And of course, Jack, they have to be very careful around here when pushing the limits, because one incident point can invalidate that lap counter.
It really can, and it's not exactly the shortest lap in the world. We're seeing a couple of drivers just about to break into the 149s, I'm pretty sure, towards the end of this session, and 1 minute 49, almost 2 minutes, just to go and invalidate the lap at the end. It's a wasted 2 minutes worth of qualifying, and in what is quite, in theory, a long qualifying session, 25 minutes, it can very quickly dissipate with lots of cars on circuit. You don't want to get caught right behind somebody. You want to come out or start your lap probably about a second back, so you've got that room for manoeuvre, so you can start to sort of catch up to them towards the end of the lap. But yeah, it's 1x, like you said, or 1 off track. I think even a 0x, if you hit a curb too hard, can invalidate the lap as well. So it's really modulation of how aggressive you're going to be in your qualifying, and who you're going to stick behind, because you don't want to be caught behind someone too slow, and you don't want to be caught behind someone too quick, because they'll disappear into the distance, or you'll be right on them very quickly. So it's one of those things where it's a circuit where, we're going to say it again, it's about mind games. You've got to go into it like sort of expecting the unexpected.
Definitely. Well, what we're going to do, everybody, we'll just give you now an onboard with who better to do it with than Ryan Parkins. This is going to be very loud, so you won't be able to hear us, but let's go on board for a lap, shall we? Beautiful ride there with Ryan Parkins around Monza. You can see just how smooth he is, and he's only 700ths of a second slower than his best lap there. But just how smooth all the inputs are as he gets around the circuit, it really makes such a difference to him. But one thing to notice there that we saw actually through Ascari, Peter, is that he took a lot of curb on the inside at the beginning and really didn't let the car run out wide, just to make sure that he saved himself from those sausage curbs on the right, didn't he?
Yeah, the Scary chicane is one of the trickiest sections anywhere in the world to just get right, and you can spend a whole race just adjusting your line and trying to get it just spot on. But Ryan gave us a pretty good demonstration there, and noticed that he actually short shifted, so he went up from, I think it was third to fourth gear, just to kind of settle the car down a little bit. You'll know that if you're used to driving your road car, if you've got a manual gearbox in your road car, if you go in slightly too low a gear, the car can be a little bit nervous and twitchy, and sometimes you'll just go up a gear just to smooth everything out, even if you're not at the top of the rev range. And here on the racetrack, that can be a handy tool, and we saw Ryan do that. Now, this is interesting. Here is our first look at some qualifying mind games. Number 25, Ryan Parkins, right behind our series organiser, Mark Phillips. Now, Mark is pretty quick here, and look at this. Ryan this will probably gain him a tenth or two, as long as he doesn't lose it again going into Parabolica.
He's backed out of it. Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't look like he's going to get alongside and past him enough. And now, obviously, through the corners is where most of the difference will be. I mean, we can all put our foot down and go in a straight line, depending if we get a good run out of the corner before it. But that is definitely not going to have helped at the time of Ryan Parkins. Dave Cameron still top then. Mark Phillips goes into 10th place there, 1.8 seconds off Dave. Just in the background there, we've got Stuart Clark just coming across the line. Just ahead of him was Ryan Penny, who goes up to 14th. Stuart goes up a place into 11th. Stuart reminding us who he is with having his rear name plastered across the rear wing, which we're a big fan of in the commentary booth. In terms of... Well, actually, sorry, I've just realised we had Mark Searle off the circuit there. He's got a new livery for this week, actually. That's quite a focusing one, isn't it, Jack, compared to what we've seen before?
It really is, and this is just going to be me being me and sort of a bobble hat, because I'm not just an avid motorsport fan. I do like rugby league as well. The lion on the front of that looks very similar, or the tiger, pardon me. The tiger on the front of that looks very similar to the Castleford Tigers logo. So whether that is a team that he supports or not, but it's got a very, very close sort of representation to the logo of the Tigers. So I'm sure I'll have to speak to him about that, but a great livery nonetheless. And orange and white is not something you see that often, really. So it's nice to see a real wide palette or a proper wide palette of colours up and down the order, and it's just adding that extra little bit of splash of colour to the grid.
Looks like he needs to still sort the spec map out, but to be honest, the silver looks great, and that's one of the beautiful things that obviously in the last 6 months we've had on iRacing is the introduction of the spec maps. So liveries have got a whole new dimension to them now. People used to paint sort of metallic effects onto them, just hoping for the best, but now they really do get those effects, and it looks great. Here's Oliver Carwadine, 18th at the moment in the number 80 machine. He's just come through a Ascari, 4.4 seconds off the pace, which you would think wouldn't really be that possible around Monza, because so much of it is just driving in a straight line, but it's all about the run that you get out of these corners, isn't it, Peter? Because if you don't get a good run, you lose a metre every good couple of metres down the straight, don't you? As long as you get a good run, it's pretty much sorted, but it's not as easy as that, is it?
You're spot on, yes, and that's something where it's actually really relevant. We're using in the championship the 911 GT3 Cup car, of course, has the traditional Porsche 911 rear engine layout, and actually the gearbox is mounted in front of the engine, so the engine is right at the back. I was watching some action from the 24 Hours of Portimao yesterday, one of the first real world endurance races actually to get going since the lockdown beginning to be lifted, and they had to do a gearbox change, and I'm sure any Porsche mechanic will tell you that is not an easy job with the engine being at the back. But how it relates here at Monza, as you rightly say, if you don't get the exit out of a corner onto one of these long straights correct, then you're just, as you say, you're going to be punished all the way down. And of course, the one advantage of this rear engine layout is it gives fantastic traction. Any Porsche 911 owner will tell you that traditional rear engine layout just gives that lovely kind of weight over the back wheels and just gets it driving out the corner. So understanding how to get the best out of this car and getting that power down is going to be super important here today at Monza.
It really will be. And I can't wait to see how they get on in the race as well, trying to, rather than just find tenths and little tiny intervals here and there, it's going to be a case of trying to overtake the car in front and get the better of the people around you. It's going to be very interesting to see. Just bear with us 2 seconds here, everybody. I'm just having a little slight technical issue or something. I just need to sort that out, and we'll be right back with you. One moment. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. We are back now. We're just having a lot of jumping going around on the stream. I did check that it wasn't the sim doing it, and for some reason it's an issue in my broadcasting software that we seem to be having. So if it does jump around, I'm sorry about that. It's not too major, but I just want to make sure that it's the best quality that it can be for you guys. And please do let me know if it does get any worse. But I'm keeping my eye on it. Just watching some of these guys hop around these curbs though that we mentioned here, Jack. They really are launching it at some of them with no mercy, aren't they?
Yeah, I guess they've got that confidence in the car now because they've already done, what, 4 20-minute races on top of all these 1-hour practice sessions and the 25-minute qualifying sessions and their solo practice and obviously all of the practice that they've done as a group, because I know there are hosted sessions going on pretty much every week for these guys. So they've got plenty of seat time. Like what Peter said, it really is essential for these guys to spend as long as they can behind the wheel of these cars just to get that extra bit between their teeth when it comes to racing these. So it's nice to see that they've got that sort of confidence in the car and in their ability to throw the car over the curb, knowing full well that if they have a moment they can collect it up quite nicely. And we're just watching a gaggle of cars go through turns 1 and 2, Oliver Cowdy leading Carl Sharkey through there, and you can see them. They've got that sort of idea of where to turn the car in and where to hit the brakes and where to apply the throttle again, nice and smooth. So you can really see that these guys have spent plenty of time going around here, and see Calverdine knows what he needs to do to get out of the way of Sharkey. So well, I say that. There's a car skittering across the grass in the background, but you can see that these guys are starting to really build up confidence in the cars, but more importantly, each other as well. They know how close they can race with each other, and at what point they decide to pull out of the move, or at what point they decide just to go for the move.
And that's one of the beauties of league racing, to be honest. If you're racing against the same guys week in, week out, you learn who you can race closely, who may not have as much spatial awareness, and who you're relative to in terms of pace. So I know that some of these guys, for example, if Mark Searle, not to pick on Mark, but I know that he's been sort of getting to grips with the car a little bit. If Mark came across someone like Ryan Parkins, obviously championship leader, he's had a bit of a moment there as well, as you can see. Just so easy to have these cars step out on you like that. If Mark was to come across Ryan Parkins, he probably wouldn't put up too much of a fight. And if obviously Ryan came up on Mark, he'd probably think, right, I just need to be a little bit more patient. He might break a little bit earlier than me. It's all about getting used to those sort of driver profiles and the quirks of each driver that you're racing with. And that's part of the learning experience of league racing. And people say that often it makes it all the better, but sometimes you really have to have your wits about you to learn that. I mean, I'm sure in anything sort of sim-wise as well that you've seen before as well. I know that you, Peter, have seen a lot of sim racing as of late, and you've probably seen the same from them, haven't you? That it takes a lot of learning from them when they get into a new league or a sort of tournament, for example.
It does, and even for us in the commentary box, I'm sure you guys will be the same as me. You kind of, over the last couple of rounds, you kind of just get an impression for what each driver's characteristics is, and that's just what makes motor racing so exciting to watch. And I personally believe that as much as in the real world as in sim racing, the personality of the the driver behind the wheel is critical as well, and there's a big variety of personalities here in the Porsche Club of Great Britain Sim Racing paddock. While we're on the subject of that paddock, and as you say, we're driving in a league, we must give a huge shout out to some of the faster drivers who have volunteered to help some of the other drivers who are perhaps struggling a little bit to get to grips with the car and also the iRacing simulator. Remember, we've got a couple of guys taking part who are very new to iRacing and sim racing in general. So that's what I love about being a part of this championship and this paddock, if you like, is that it's a really good kind of club feel. It's like proper club racing in the real world. People will be able to help you out, and it's in the interest of everyone that everyone's having fun, no matter where you are on the grid.
Yeah, and that's part of the beautiful community that we get behind a lot of sim racing stuff, but in different leagues, depending on how competitive they are. Mark Bow lights up the rears through Parabolica. That's going to hit the wall hard. Don't forget, these guys have the updated damage model on these Porsches as of a few weeks ago, and it's certainly been testing them these last couple of weeks. But either way, the guys are putting in a lot of effort to make sure that they are on the pace. Carl Sharkey is one of them at the moment. He's 8/10 off though, and to be honest, Jack, I mean, we've seen a couple of guys at the front run away with a few results here this season, but there's quite a spread again here, even at somewhere like Monza, isn't there?
There really is, but I think like what I said earlier, we're going into the unknown, because Parkins could have been a perfect lap from him. He drove exactly how he had to, nailed every apex while following a car that wasn't too slow as well, whereas Sharkey might not have got the bit between his teeth as he decides to have a little excursion over the sausage curves, just making sure they're still there, and they are. But maybe he just hasn't found that lap and hasn't found that sort of pace in himself yet, or he just hasn't got onto the tail of a car ahead. So it really is just sort of one of those things. He might not have it in qualifying, but during the race, when you're guaranteed some draft, as long as you keep it clean through the opening stages of the race, you're going to be guaranteed some draft over the or from the cars ahead. And with 5 minutes of the qualifying to go, he's still got a little bit of time to improve that, to improve his provisional P6 time as well. So it's one of those things where he can improve, but whether it's worth it, and he just wants to sit a little further back down the grid just so he can get all that aerodynamic benefit from the cars ahead. I mean, we can't really tell what's going on inside his head, but I'm sure Carl has got a pretty good idea of what his strategy is going to be going into the race.
Yeah, and I think that just uploading the overlay there. Sorry, everyone. I think that the mindset of these guys will probably change a little bit when we see them go into the race. We've seen it in a lot of series before, where when people go into qualifying, they go into some sort of animalistic state when they try and get the best laps that they can, and then in a race you may see them calm down quite a lot and really sort of tone it back and just take things a little bit slower. And I think that one of the main things around Monza is that you have to have patience. You really have to have patience. It's not a track where you can just attack it in every single corner and think, oh, I'll line them up for the next corner, because the straights here really give everybody a time to think, not just the car that you're chasing, but you as well as the chaser in a battle. You have a long time to think about lining your move up for the next corner, and that's going to make all the difference here today, I think. Maybe some of the guys that may not have as much racecraft or as much confidence in the car, we're going to see a big change from some of these lots. Oh, that's a big push from Charlie Oliver through Ascari. And that's certainly not the patience that we're going to be expecting to see. But I hope you understand what I mean there, everyone. I know I do word this quite a lot. But it's going to be a fantastic scrap all the same. Just got to be careful of incidents around here, though, haven't you, Peter? Because there's going to be so many moments where if someone goes off, there's going to be a lot of cars coming at them flat chat.
Yes, that is very true. Particularly into turn one, that's an area that I think quite a few of the drivers are concerned about. And you might maybe not be surprised if you see someone deliberately starting from pit lane just to avoid all that melee and then work their way through. But I was speaking to Ryan Parkins, the championship leader, earlier in the week, and he was saying that with some of the higher track temperatures, you're really getting the rear of the car sliding a lot through the Parabolica, which is the final kind of really long sweeping right-hander. And also, he mentioned really big tyre wear as well, which was really causing problems for a lot of the drivers. So although we've only got a relatively short race, even over that length of time, we're seeing a lot of tyre wear. So that might be why we've not really seen many drivers bettering their time at the latter stages of this qualifying session. We've not really seen any green laps coming through. So we'll need to just keep an eye on that.
Just watching Johnny Elia come around the final corner now then. He's had a bit of a mixed season so far. A bit up and down. A couple of good results at Donington. Bit of argy-bargy at Donington as well, as I think everyone was subject to a bit of that though, to be honest. It's just a case of trying to keep it clean though, isn't it, Jack? I mean, we've seen that it's very, very easy for these guys to just put themselves in a situation where they could ruin their race with just one ambitious move, thinking that it's going to be an easy one.
Yeah, it is about damage management and deciding where to go to the move or where to go for the move and where just to sit behind them and maybe wait for another opportunity. But the trouble is, it's only a 20-minute race, which does sound like you've got plenty of time. But in theory, it is only still a sprint race. And round Monza, where it is quite easy to overtake with the draft and on the brakes. But as soon as you do that, you've then got to be straight back onto the defensive lines, because the person you've just overtaken will be looking for that opportunity as well. So now more than ever, these guys are going to have to be using their mirrors and just sort of learning what the car's going to do underneath them, because one little mistake, like we've seen a couple of guys spin coming out of the chicanes here, if you make that mistake and you're in front of a couple of cars, there's not really much runoff here at Monza. You can see there are quite big gravel traps and bits of grass where the cars are at high speeds, but when you're coming out of a chicane, there's a couple of meters of grass and then barrier as well. So I can see it getting quite congested towards the start of the race, and let's hope that it starts to fan out a little bit towards the latter part of the races. But I'm just looking forward to seeing how these guys are going to approach the start of these races.
Yeah, it's certainly a track where bottlenecks can happen quite a lot. This is Johnny Elia just having a bit of a trip into the gravel and then the grass at Ascari. And that's what I was talking about earlier, wasn't it, Peter? That the car can really get away with you on the way into these chicanes, and there's such a massive change between your flat out pace going into it and how you want to hit the apex. It's so easy for the car to loop around.
Yes, and that's going to be no more relevant than on the first lap when the tyres are cold. When the tyres are cold, that hop over the curb is really, really easy to spin. To give you an impression how easy it is, I was commentating on a 2.4 hours of Le Mans last weekend, and Philippe Albuquerque, who's raced at the very highest level at Le Mans, is a factory Audi driver, and he even spun his four-wheel drive Audi LMP1 car coming out the final chicane. So if Philippe Albuquerque, a pro, IMSA race winner and Le Mans driver, former factory driver for Audi, can do it, then surely you can do it here at Monza as well. But mention tyres, of course, we've got to watch for those cold tyre temperatures at the beginning of the race. While we're on the subject of tyres, and since we're in Italy, we should mention Pirelli, of course, an Italian tyre manufacturer. You'll see Pirelli, the logos, on a number of the cars here in the championship, and that's because Pirelli has been a long-standing supporter of the Porsche Club of Great Britain's motorsport activity, and the connection between Pirelli and Porsche goes back a long way. In fact, Porsche were the first ever car brand to approach Pirelli to make a specific tyre for their vehicles. So the 911, of course, has a very unique layout, having the engine mounted right at the back, and that creates a very specific demand for the tyre. So Pirelli created a tyre with a specific tread pattern to work well with the 911. So you can pop down to your local Pirelli Performance Centre, and they will. They actually now have a specific tyre for all different kinds of Porsche, including the SUVs that they produce as well. So big thanks to Pirelli for supporting all of Porsche Club of Great Britain's motorsport activity. And here we are at their home race at Monza.
And what a place for us to have the 5th and 6th rounds of the championship. As you saw then, everybody, qualifying has now come to an end. We just wait for a moment until the grid information gets fully classified and becomes available to us. The session is just ticking over now, but I can tell you that we have Ryan Parkins on pole position with a 1:50.07. almost 0.2 of a second quicker than Dave Cameron. But Dave, you know, we've seen plenty of him on YouTube before, I'm sure. Anyone that's into sim racing will know. He's a very, very accomplished sim racer. So, here we go then. Ryan Parkins and Dave Cameron make up the front row. Then we've got William Chadwick and Austin Greatorex. Gavin Halls alongside Dan Bathy with Carl Sharkey and Paul Rieger on row 4. Then it's Charlie Oliver and Mark Bowe. Danny Jones and organiser Mark Phillips in 12th, with Stuart Clark 13th and Johnny Elia 14th. Oliver Carwadine 15th ahead of James Cummings on row 8, with Angus Archer and Ryan Penny just behind them. Then we have Carl Hazelton alongside Mark Sill, Amrik Sashdev 21st with Andrew Marston 22nd, and Chris Bowie at the back of the grid. I do not think set a time. So we all know and love this circuit, Jack. We know that this first chicane going from so flat out into a very slow chicane is going to be very daunting for all of them. Some of the more the lesser experienced drivers in this field. How do you think they're going to find this?
I'm not sure, to be honest, because I haven't really been in their shoes as of yet. By far and away, I'm still sort of an amateur to this series, but these guys are going to have their hands full going into turns 1 and 2 and just generally the first lap.
Right then, time to get underway. Round 5 of the Porsche Club GB Sim Racing Series is underway. Carl Sharkey uses that launch control, and he knows how to get that car off the line, and he has shown these guys again. Dave Cameron makes a good start. Greatorex stays in third. Oh, there's a car off in the background. It's Amrik Sashdev, and with him has gone, I believe, Carl Hazelton. We'll have a look back into the middle of the field, see if there's any argy-bargy. Everyone behaving themselves at the moment by the look of it. Oh, a little bit of a shove there. That's the 80 and the 56. That's Charlie Oliver and Oliver Carwadine. We were saying before in practice that those two are going to be hard to tell apart because they're in the same livery, but looks like Carwadine's got a slowdown. But here is Parkins then. Championship leader, race leader, Dave Cameron behind him. Nice tidy start there though, Peter.
Yes, absolutely well done to all of the drivers there. That turn 1 at Monza is notorious for attrition and calamity, and all of our drivers have got through there relatively cleanly, so big props to everyone there. This is critical for Ryan Parkins. You know, if he's got to think really cleverly here, he's got an advantage to catch the others napping when everyone's on cold tyres, as is Ryan, but he can try to break away here, but it doesn't look like Dave Cameron's going to let him. But look, of course, David Cameron's not going to be a factor in the championship, but Ryan in first in the 25 car and the 13 of Austin Greatorex are going to be. So for Austin, he's about half a second or so behind on outright lap pace to these top two, but if he can stay in their draft, he can stay with them.
Definitely, and this is where the mind games begin. Oh, I think we've got a car off in the background. Charlie Oliver, he's off at... Oh, he's been clipped by Chris Bowie there. He is off at Ascari. There's a lot of these white cars a bit further down the order, a bit all over the place. But Ryan Parkins still leads then at the end of lap 1. Dave Cameron right behind him. He's going to be tucked in there very nice and tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite, I tell you. And that's William Chadwick as well, trying to make moves on Carl Sharkey in the background. So the slipstreaming begins here, Jack.
Yeah, we knew it was going to play a part in this race, and it really is. Now, Dave Cameron has inherited the lead going into turn 1. He's got all the work to do round the outside, though, but he cuts across the nose of Parkins. Parkins is looking for the cutback, but Dave parks it perfectly on the apex just to make sure he defends that position going through what will be now turn 3, heading up towards turn 4 and 5 at the second chicane on this 4 and 3/4 kilometre circuit, so they've still got quite a way to go. And Dave, yes, he's got the position at the start of the lap, but it'll be interesting to see what he can do towards the end of the lap and see whether he can still stay in the lead. But I don't think he's going to fend off the attention of Parkins just as yet. But while these two are battling, it's also allowed Greatorex to get into the mix, and he's looking to the inside of Parkins going up towards Lesmo 1. Yeah,
Parkins just got a little bit onto the grass there into the De La Rogia chicane. Easy for me to say. I thought he was going to lose it and go sideways. One of the drivers I was watching last night in the VRS GT Endurance Series did just that after nearly 2.5 hours of racing. Put a wheel on the grass into the chicane and off he went. Mark Bowe's got a bit of a train coming up behind him here. That's Dan Bathy, and Dan has got a really good run as they go down towards Ascari side by side. These things sound great, screaming past on the way down to Ascari. Looks like Dan's going to have it, or is he? Mark Bowe's not letting him get away with it easily, and just behind him now Mark Phillips wants in. There's contact, and oh, Dan Bathy's off. He's going to come back onto the circuit. He's right on the curb there. He needs to really be careful, maybe reverse the thing. But there was the tiniest bit of contact there between the two of them. I'm just having a quick look now, see whether we can catch it back. Let's have a look. To be fair, I think Dan may have squeezed him. He may have thought the overlap was going to disappear. He didn't leave him all the room in the world, but he does recover. We've also got Oliver Carwadine going off as well. He, in the same livery as Charlie Oliver, who went off before, has had another issue. Oh! And he has smacked into Dan Bathy. Oh, and someone else as well. Oh, and he's had another hit as well. I think that was Charlie Oliver. Let me just have a quick look at what happened here, because Ryan Penny had gone off. There was more contact. Oh, so Ryan Penny and Carwadine had got together. Then Carwadine hit Penny as he came back up. That was just a bit of a mess there, wasn't it, Peter?
Yes, yeah, again, very easy to do. They are coming into Ascari. You know, you've got you've coming out of quite a slow corner at the second Lesmo, and then going all the way up to fifth or perhaps even sixth gear, and then hard on the brakes, and you've got to tuck the car in. It's tricky, and of course with a few cars off there, it just created a bit of a domino effect. Now, this is going to be fascinating to see, because look out at the front. Cameron and Parkins are making a little bit of a getaway, so this isn't good news for Austin Greatorex. And really, what Austin will be wanting to see is Ryan take a dive at Dave and try and slow them up a little bit. But we must be aware that Dave Cameron in this blue car, the 786 in front, he is not going to be a championship contender. Of course, this is his first race with us, and I understand earlier this morning he mentioned in the paddock that he will only be doing race 1. He's got to go to work when race 2 will be taking place. So real life calls for Dave. So that I could imagine that someone, you know, we know that Ryan is very, very fast, Ryan Parkins. So it could be that Ryan's just said, you know what, I'll just sit behind you. You're very fast, so I'll just sit behind you, and you can just drag me along for the whole race. And so just watch that kind of dynamic play out.
Yeah, it's all about the mind games, as we said, and it's the same here. Austin Greatorex, William Chadwick wants to gain his place back. He started third on the grid, Austin started fourth, and now these two are at play once again. Two very brightly coloured cars flying down the straight together. You can just see the two leaders also side by side in front of them. Looks like Parkins is going to go for the lead. No, Dave gets in front, and William Chadwick goes into third place. Now Carl Sharkey's behind waiting for this to happen, and Mark Bowe has got Mark Phillips right behind him as well. So again, Jack, even though we've had a more tame start than we've seen in some of the previous rounds, we've still got great battles going on all over the field here.
We really do. It's almost 2 by 2 up and down the order so far. And you did mention Carl Sharkey is waiting for all this to play out, but he's got the best seat in the house as well. We're looking at Charlie Oliver now going side by side with Chris Bowie. Chris, I think, just pulls out of the move and concedes the position to Charlie. Charlie working his way back up the order with that front end damage, so it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Ryan Parkins up the inside of Dave Cam going into the first of 2 Lesmos. So Ryan Parkins now taking the lead once again, and you did mention Carl Sharkey a little earlier on, and he's got the best seats in the house because he can see exactly what the leaders are doing, and he can also see what the battle for third place between William Chadwick and Austin Greatorex is doing. But he can't hang around for too long, because Carl might also attract the attention of Mark Bowe and Mark Phillips if those two keep on working their way up the order the way they have been.
Yeah, it was sort of a case of when, not if. Let's just have a look. Oh, Ryan just got a really, really good run through the middle as well with the lap traffic there. I think that was James Cummings in the number 2 car, and it was really opportunistic stuff there. Straight down the inside, gets it done, and off he goes. But we've got the top 5 here really breaking away. Then it's Mark and Mark in the background. 2 Marks show just back there down the straight. There they are. You can also see Danny Jones, who hasn't had much of a mention yet, in the Haribo car. Oh, Amrik Sakdev has had an issue here. Mark Searle has also had one. Oh, Amrik, just as he came back on there out of the first Lesmo, over the gravel, and that is a real nightmare. Here is Mark Searle. Yep, it's that wheel on the grass. And luckily, he doesn't take Gavin Halls with him. Oh, no! That's not quite what the sausage curb's there for. It pops the wing mirrors off. That's a real shame, that one, though, isn't it, Peter? That's just unfortunate sim racing physics, I'm afraid.
He nearly stuck the landing as well. That was nearly a perfect flip over. Yeah, that was good. And I've noticed there on Mark Searle's car, it reminds me of the old Esso liveries. You know, when they say you put it with, when you fill up with Esso, you put a tiger in your tank. Well, he's put a tiger on the front bonnet of his 911. But what a battle, as you say, coming up here at the front between Parkins and Dave Cameron. A brilliantly opportunistic move from Parkins going into the first Lesmo, which is not a typical overtaking manoeuvre, but Cameron just made a mistake coming out of the second chicane. but this has allowed third place William Chadwick to get close. Now, William won the 12 Hours of Snetterton charity race in fantastic fashion, holding off MacKay over the whole race. Now, William does a lot of go-karting and is a very, very accomplished sim racer. So look at him to feature in this race. And of course, Austin Greatorex, keeping it nice and tidy, keeping his nose clean and just staying in touch with the leaders. Very, very impressive. And of course, I have to say, I don't know about you guys, Austin's drive to the win in race 2 last week at Laguna Seca with big damage from turn 1 was exceptional, I think.
Oh yeah, it was insane. I mean, to get involved in such a hefty incident at the start as well, massive contact, really broke the front left of the car. But as we were saying before, he is a dirt bike racer, so we know that he can control things on dirt, and he made the most of that to climb back up the order. And to be honest, a drive like that, yeah, it was a race of attrition, as Jack said before, but to be honest, he did a smashing job of it, didn't he, Jack?
He really did. It's like he knew what was going to play out, and he knew exactly what he needed to do. We're looking at Carl Hazelton use a bit too much sausage curb on the inside, and then scrape the car across the second. Few sausage curbs going through the second chicane. Chris Bowie now working his way through a Scari. Here's Gavin Halls. Oh, he collected the back of who I think was Charlie Oliver there, and then spun himself around a little bit because of that incident. One of the rear wheels locked up there, so I'm not sure whether he has got damage or not. It doesn't look like anything is affecting the driving of that car on first inspection, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. Dave Cam now looking to the inside of the second chicane. Can he get the move done? It's going to be tight to go through there too wide.
Oh,
he just
no.
gets the move done, but then gets collected
And
by
look
Ryan
who comes
Parkin.
out on top.
That's Austin Greatorex really making the most of that. It's just everybody bottlenecked together, and sadly the innocent party there, William Chadwick, is now dropped way back down to 4th position, and he's still struggling with his car out of the first Lesmo. I think he might even have collected the wall there. He has indeed. He's got a bit of damage on the front left of that car, struggling to grab a gear, waiting for all the cars to go back by. He finally gets the gear and rotates the car 380 degrees, but he is on the racing line for a brief moment, thankfully avoided by everybody else. We'll have another look back and see what happened to that incident, Chaz.
I think Dave just didn't leave as much room as he needed to, and unfortunately it was a real shame for William Chadwick there, who really got caught up in that. He had it going on all in front of him. Let's just have a quick look back at how William saw it. So you can see the two of them side by side. Dave just doesn't leave enough room as Parkins comes off the curb. Chadwick gets in there as well. Can't really do a lot about it, and Greatorex and Carl Sharkey fly through. But what do you make of that one, Peter? Racing incident or a bit over-ambitious from Dave?
I think it comes back to what you said before the race, and what we've all said up here in the commentary box over the opening rounds, is that patience is vital, and no more here than at Monza, because actually you have so many opportunities to overtake. Into turn 1 here, we're going to get a great demonstration of just how much the draft makes a difference, and as Ryan Parkins looks up the inside, you've got a long braking zone there from right at the very top of top gear. So you've got plenty of time as William Chadwick goes into the pits to repair his damage. So you mentioned patience. Trying to overtake on the not the preferred line into the second chicane is a bit silly, to be honest. You've got plenty of other opportunities to make overtaking manoeuvres, and that is just that's a one-line corner, and it's cost a few people their race there.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of it before in sim racing, haven't we, where people do go down the inside and then it doesn't quite work on the second part of the chicane. It requires a lot of cooperation around there, and I think if one of you just leaves a tiny bit too much space or doesn't quite give enough space, it can very easily go wrong. We're just looking at Johnny Elia here chasing down Danny Jones and Harry Bocart, and he definitely wants some star mix by the look of it, because he is really putting the pressure on. In the background there is Angus Archer and Paul Rieger in their both beautifully blue and white cars, almost opposite liveries as you see them coming towards us. Chris Bowie, by the way, just here in 13th position. He's just coming back on. He's actually, until Charlie Oliver goes past, he actually gained 10 places. He's gained 9 now, still the biggest mover in the field. Angus Archer and Stuart Clark, who you will now see on the left hand side of your screen. We'll go to Stuart now in 6th place. They've gained 7 places each. Carl Sharkey's gained 5, so some good moves so far throughout this race, Jack, and to be honest, I think the attrition is a lot better than we saw in some of the earlier rounds, isn't it?
It really is, and it's not as technical, which obviously could play a part in how much damage is caused, and and taken on board by everybody this weekend. But it looks like everybody's starting to keep it in between the lines, and obviously it's going to come back to trust again. Everybody's starting to trust each other a little bit. We're looking at William Chadwick trying to make amends for the earlier incident, dives up the inside at Ascari and gets the move done. I'm not sure whether that was for position. It was indeed. That was up the inside of Ryan Penny. So William Chadwick now inheriting P15 from Ryan Penny, and he's working his way up. But Austin Greatorex is starting to disappear into the distance, but he's got a beautiful view in his rearview mirror of this battle between Ryan Parkins and Carl Sharkey. So Carl is pretty much, his day has gone exactly pretty much how he wanted it. He had the best seats in the house, watched an absolutely amazing battle, and we're looking at Ryan Parkins now just take the position and got the best run coming out of that first chicane. Textbook overtake, and it's going back to that thing that we mentioned earlier, Chaz. It's all about getting that run out of the chicanes.
Yeah, that was beautiful by Ryan Parkins, to be honest. I don't think Carl had an answer for that. You see Carl goes deep, so he just lines it up, gets this car slowed down a little bit more than normal, short shift so he can get on the power, and that is a really, really nice run out of there for Ryan Parkins. And now he's going to go chasing down Austin Greatorex and see whether he can stop Austin getting 2 wins in a row. Amrik Sashdev has had another issue. Amrik was really strong at Donington, but since then it's just gone completely, well, I was going to say it's gone backwards for him, but it's gone sideways in this case, hasn't it, Peter?
Yeah, Amrik's one of our newcomers to the Porsche Club of Great Britain, and is relatively new to iRacing as well. And we must mention, remember we do have our hopefully we'll have our fan Sarah, Amrik's lovely partner Sarah, who tunes into our broadcast and enjoys our broadcast. So we must say a big hello to her and thank her for watching. But yeah, Amrik, he drives a 911, beautiful actually, 911 GTS Cabriolet. Oh dear, Danny Jones. Oh dear. I tell you what, no matter what happens to Danny Jones, that Harry Beaubear is still cheering for him.
Oh, it's not going to be cheering for the wall though. I tell you what, Harry Bow may be soft, but I reckon that wall isn't as soft. Yeah. That was a pretty big hit, and now he's going to lose time and a lot of damage to the front of that car as well. Stuart Clark has also, he's got the attentions of Mark Phillips right now. I think Mark might have gone off the circuit a little bit earlier and lost quite a bit of time because he was chasing Mark Bow. As you may have remembered, it was the Mark show between the pair of them. And now Stuart Clark losing that place. Nice textbook stuff from Mr. Phillips into turn 1. Lights up the rears and off he goes. But yeah, it's a bit of a strange one that Danny lost it so suddenly there. The battle for the lead has got interesting as well, actually, Peter. They've closed back up again.
Yeah, as we know, Ryan has about a half a second advantage on pace to Austin, and he's been able to make that count. But Austin's strategies of just staying out of trouble and just trusting his pace and sticking to it is working really well so far across this championship. And it might be that he doesn't put up too hard a protest here from Ryan Parkins and maybe just tuck in behind him and then take his chances in the reverse grid race. But got to give a good shout out to Carl Sharkey. He's been, as you said, he's been really clever in this race, as we should call him Caravan Carl, because he's got a tow of quite a few faster drivers and been able to get himself up the field. But that's worked. We saw him use it to great effect with Matthew Donington in qualifying at Donington, as we watched Ryan Parkins going up the inside into Parabolica. Nicely
done. It was always going to be Ryan making his way back up the order to the lead, and to be fair, he's done a great recovery of it, especially after how sideways he was in that incident and pretty much stopping the car. William Chadwick's just had a bit of an issue coming out of one of the Lesmos, but this is now going to change over again, surely, as Austin Greatorex tucks right behind the large rear wing on the Porsche Cup car down the straight. But with just a couple of minutes left, do you reckon here, Jack, that he's just going to follow him to the end and just wait till the last lap before he makes a move? That's if he can stay on pace, I suppose.
I think that could be a possibility if I was Austin Greatorex, knowing full well that Parkins has been involved in an incident and still is the quickest car on circuit at the moment. I would probably just stick behind him and let him drive my race for me and stay in the draft, because the last thing you want to do is start overdriving the car, losing time, and then falling into the grasp of Carl Sharkey behind. So I think if I was Greatorex, I'd just sit behind him and bring it home in a nice safe P2. But that might not be the case. He might not be able to do anything about the approaching Carl Sharkey, and if Carl is getting ever closer, obviously he will start to pick up that slight bit of draft assistance from Austin Greatorex, and that may mean that he hasn't really got much of a choice but to defend from Carl. But if those two start battling as well, we can't rule out Dave Cameron. Yes, he is 4.5 seconds behind, and we've only got 2 minutes of the race to go. We can't rule him out, because if these two slow each other down to quite great extent, Dave comes there to pick up all the pieces.
Yeah, that's it. you can't risk too much in these races, especially with them being shorter races as well. It's not an endurance where you just think, oh, I'll just let this guy go. I'll maybe get him back in the pit stops later. Here's William Chadwick just taking his place in front of Danny Jones. William, of course, showing good pace, trying to make his way back up the order here. And here's this battle between Mark Phillips and Stuart Clark still going on for 6th and 7th position. And we had Hasse Roma, our fellow commentator, commenting on the YouTube stream, saying perhaps the new great safety invention in real-life motorsport, gummy barriers. And I tell you what, I'm all for that, but we might see more crashes than intended, really, with that being the case. People have just bin it into the car so they can have a snack. But here we are then, with 1 minute and 15 seconds to go, which means that this will be the final lap of the race then. This is going to be Austin's final chance to try and make something of this. He really needs to be careful now. Stay in the slipstream here. And at this point of the race, with only 0.6 of a second in front of you, Peter, would you be thinking that you could probably get it done?
I have to say, I think Ryan Parkin's got this one in the bag, because he's just been so consistent, and really the only time he's been anywhere off the apex is when he was in the contact with Dave Cameron. And I think I just want to go back to that incident as we go around the scene of the crime at the second chicane. As we mentioned, the dynamic between Dave Cameron only here for this one race at the moment. I'm sure we'll be able to see him in the championship later on. But Ryan, he's leading the championship, and that was probably that incident summed it up really. As we see, Mark Bowe's got a wheel dragging there, so that's allowed Mark Phillips to get back up behind him, and Stuart Clark's managed to get by. What's happened there?
Yeah,
There's something going on there. Stuart Clark in the Sunoco style livery, a bit of contact there. Oh dearie me.
Yeah, Mark Phillips was just really, really too close to the back of him there, going through the chicane, wasn't patient, and Mark's also just gone off again as well. I'm not sure whether they've had another bit of a coming together, or whether Mark's just put it off himself, or he's gone a bit hot into the Lesmo too, and wide he goes. So luckily, I thought there might have been a bit more contact and they've gone back at each other there. But into the Parabolica for the final time then. We have current championship leader Ryan Parkins just taking it nice and easy now. And round the final corner he goes. Round 5 of the Porsche Club GB Sim Racing Series goes to Ryan Parkins. Austin Greater X, brilliant drive to second place. Carl Sharkey's going to grab a podium. Dave Cameron, good recovery there to 4th in his only appearance today. But very well deserved. Stuart Clark, he's going to be happy with 5th place in the number 23 machine. Mark Bowe just behind him there as well in 6th. Mark Phillips comes home 7th. Still 5 places gained though, so a good run from him. And then we have Johnny Elia. Sorry, just missed him there. He crosses the line in 8th place. Paul Rieger there in 9th, and Angus Archer just behind in 10th. And another fantastic race for us here there, Jack. I mean, plenty of action up and down the order, a couple of incidents, but nothing too major. The standards, I mean, I'm sure the guys won't mind me saying, standards seem quite improved on what we saw at Laguna Seca. It was good.
They really have. It was still obviously a bit of argy-bargy and some trading paints, but that's just what happens with sprint races, especially in these cars where they are quite a handful. We're just looking at Danny Jones come around the final corner. I'm having a slightly short mind, but Ryan Penny's binned it.
Yeah, right.
At the Parabolica, and that car is refusing to go in a straight line.
Yeah, you were saying we're looking at these guys going around the final corner, and Ryan Penny was just chucking it at the scenery in the background. There he goes. Car breaks away. That's a big hit as well, and the wing stays on it. So he's managed to... actually, he's broken the right rear. He's broken the right rear severely there. That's a lot of damage on that car. Let's just see if we can get another... There you go. Look at that. Not as intended. That's not factory spec. Here is the pink pig. It's Andrew Marston. We were trying to figure out who it was beforehand. And it's Andrew sporting the beautiful pink pig livery. He's going to be one of the last cars across the line. Mark Searle has pulled it over and he thinks, oh, I'm just going to go do some lawn mowing. But here we go then. We'll go on board, listen to the Porsche for the last moment or so. You might not be able to hear me because I've got it turned up so loud, but why would you want to hear me when you can hear this thing? Listen to it.
I love the matching roll cage, and that is very cool. The pink roll cage to match the pink pig livery.
Yeah, goes down well. Certainly goes down well. So here is your result then from race 1. Ryan Parkins wins from just under 0.6 of a second from Austin Greater X. Carl Sharkey rounds out your podium with Dave Cameron and Stuart Clark rounding out your top 5. We then have Mark Bowe and Mark Phillips, the two Marks still together. Johnny Elia in 8th place with Paul Rieger and Angus Archer rounding out your top 10. Then we have Dan Bathy and Charlie Oliver with Chris Bowie 13th. William Chadwick finished 14th in the end. Gavin Halls 15th, and Danny Jones in the Haribo car was 16th, ahead of Carl Hazelton and Oliver Carwadine in 18th. Last car on the lead lap was Andrew Marston, as we just saw. Ryan Penny unfortunately had to retire there after that big incident, with James Cummings in 21st, Mark Searle 22nd, and then Amrik Sashdev 2 laps down in 23rd. But another great race then in the Porsche Club GB Sim Racing Series here at Monza. And if you join us in I'd say about 10 minutes time, if you join me, Peter and Jack, we'll be back with you with round 6 of the championship. See you in a few minutes.
Those nights when we were younger, and we would never sleep. So let's forget about tomorrow, live for tonight while we're free. Touch the sky. Tonight we're coming alive. Dust we will awaken, and life will fill our veins. But these are the moments that we live for. I can keep it inside of me. Touch the sky. Tonight we're coming alive.
just load into the session now, everybody. Just give us a couple more minutes and we'll be back with you with the Porsche Club GB Sim Racing Series here on Simracersworld TV. What did you all make of that first race then? Let us know in the comments and we'll have a quick look over them when we come back in just a moment.
Leave the ghosts of our past in the stratosphere.
Welcome back, everybody, to Simracersworld TV and the Porsche Club GB Sim Racing Series from Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. I am Chaz Draycott with Jack Werrell and Peter MacKay joining me in the booth today. And, well, Peter, just to start with you, mate, we were treated to a great race one, and we're hoping for the same again here, aren't we?
Yeah, first of all, I have to say, you're really enjoying giving that track introduction. Your Italian accent's spot on, I have to say, Chaz. You've got to give, first of all, big props to the drivers, because we can't stress enough just how notorious Turn 1 at Monza is for big action and big crashes on lap 1. And we see it at all levels of motorsport, even in Formula 1. But our drivers today all did a superb job to get through there cleanly, safely, and pretty quickly too. And then we had some brilliant action that Monza always gives, lots of slipstreaming and good manoeuvres on the brakes. So I have to say, coming into this reverse grid race where we're going to see Parkins and Greatorex and co coming through the field, it's going to be a cracker.
And what do you think, Jack? I mean, we mentioned the mind games. It's pretty much been the subject of the afternoon. It did come true, and we saw a lot of it, and it made for some really good racing, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did, and I'm hoping that can just sort of reiterate itself into race 2, because these guys now, they've got a race under their belt, and obviously they've had an hour worth of practice before qualifying even. Then they had the 25-minute qualifying, and they've now done a 25-minute race, so they will know what to look for, what to expect from everybody around them, and it also gives them a better idea of what the fuel and what the tyres do over the length of the race, because it's all well and good doing practice for that 20-minute to sort of see what it's like in the race, but you're never going to be able to exactly replicate what will happen in that race, because you might be battling someone that you've never battled before, so you'll have to adapt your driving style to make sure you can get one over on them as well. So I think race 2 will just prove even better than race 1, because everybody's got a better idea of what's happening, and hopefully that's just a formula for amazing racing.
Certainly will be, and I think we're going to see a lot of interesting drives from some of these guys trying to come back through the field from further down the order. It's been the talking point of a lot of series recently with reverse grid racing and the action it provides, and I mean even reverse grid racing was suggested in Formula 1 as well, which was a real eye-opener to everybody that thought, oh, hang on a minute. I think in series like this it definitely works, because, you know, one-make series are usually very, very exciting. It really levels the playing field a bit, as you see with all the Porsche Club action on track on our Sunday afternoons that we get. But in terms of the setups and things, these guys do drive a fixed setup, so that makes it even closer, doesn't it, actually, on these events, Peter?
It does. The great folks at driver61.com have very kindly sponsored the setups for these cars for the championship. And if you're maybe confused what that means, it basically means that there are a number of websites nowadays that will actually use pro drivers or engineers or what have you to basically create setups for you to install on your car on iRacing, because the iRacing simulator effectively replicates any adjustments that are possible on the real world version of the car. And of course, if you ever go to a motorsport event, you'll see just how big a team of engineers are required to run these cars. So therefore, getting the setup right can be quite a challenge. So there's a number of companies that exist to basically, you can go on and buy a professional setup, and it can make an enormous difference to lap time. So the lovely folks at driver61.com have very kindly produced a setup, which I've actually driven it myself, and I have to say I've kept it, because it makes this car, as we've mentioned so many times on the broadcast, it's tricky under braking. It's tricky on the application of the throttle, and can be quite a twitchy and sort of snap oversteer sort of car. And that Driver 61 setup has really kind of dialed those things out, which is brilliant. So huge thanks to them. And if you're watching and you want to get involved with iRacing, or you are iRacing, give them a shout and get a setup for your car.
Yeah, and like Peter says, having a car like this, you know, a lot of people will jump in. I mean, a car that I want to compare it to in some way is the Audi R8 LMS GT3 car on iRacing. It was originally a car I jumped in and I thought, oh my goodness me, this is impossible to drive. I couldn't ever do this. And I just completed an entire an entire season racing in said Audi, because one setup made all the difference and made it so much more stable and so much drivable, so much more drivable, I should say. You could really chuck it into corners and just have a lot more confidence in it. And that's the key thing, really, isn't it, Jack? In a car like this, it's having the confidence to chuck it in and, you know, throw it at a lap rather than just worry about what's going to happen every time you press the brakes or turn it into a corner.
Yeah, it is one of those things where the setup does make a massive difference, and it's also confidence behind the wheel as well. And it is going to go back to Peter's point that he made earlier on before race one, that seat time makes a difference, and in these cars it really does. And having also the confidence of the setup as well really does just like sort of give you that urge to drive the car to its very limits and make sure you're always on the edge of adhesion, just to grasp every little bit of performance you can out of that car. And it's great to see that these guys are doing this, because we're looking at Johnny Elia now going through Lesmo 1 up to Lesmo 2. You can just see how planted the car looks going through there. Like, it doesn't look like the car is doing anything unexpected. He's using all the curb, and he's more than happy to clip the AstroTurf as well, because he knows what the car's going to do once it goes maybe off the most grippy surface. But he's got that confidence behind the wheel just to do that and then carry on.
Certainly. And it's easy to overdo it. We've seen that a lot in these cars, where you can chuck it a little bit too hard at a curb or just sort of overdo it on the brakes, even if you're a little bit late on the brakes and you apply too much sort of pressure after that. Oh, we just had a car going off there behind Paul Rieger. That is Mark Bowe in the background. I just want to say a massive thank you, everybody, as well, that has subscribed to Simracersworld TV and followed our progress since Ian and I started it with the TCR series on Tuesday nights on Simracersworld. We just hit 800 subscribers, so thank you very much, everybody that has jumped in and clicked the button. Don't forget, like the video as well while you're there, and of course you can also get notifications for any future streams that we're doing if you click the little bell icon on the channel. But honestly, thank you everybody that has subscribed. We are very grateful for it, and we hope to bring you some more brilliant action as the seasons progress. And of course, there'll be more from the Porsche Club GB Sim Racing Series over the next couple of weeks. Next week we go to, well, where else to go than Alton Park, eh? Alton Park, the beautiful gem in the Cheshire countryside, and these cars are certainly going to be a handful around there. We're just looking at Ryan Penny and Gavin Halls having a bit of a scrap on track, which is nice. The driver's just in this practice session at the moment beforehand, using it as a warm-up to get used to the conditions. And it's so important, as actually Mark Phillips, the series organiser, has just advanced the session. Anyone that doesn't know, in iRacing, if you have a session that's like a practice or a qualifying that then leads to a race, before the time is up, you can manually advance it and push it on. So here will be your grid then for race 2 of the afternoon. Amrik Sashdev takes pole position with Mark Searle alongside. Then we have James Cummings and Ryan Penny. Andrew Marston alongside Oliver Carwadine, with Carl Hazelton and Danny Jones on row 4. Then it's Gavin Halls and William Chadwick rounding out your top 10. Watch for William coming through the order. Chris Bowie and Charlie Oliver make up row 6. Then we have Dan Bathy, Angus Archer, Paul Rieger and Johnny Elia. Mark Phillips and Mark Bowe, Stuart Clark, Carl Sharkey, Austin Greatorex and Ryan Parkins. But the lights are coming on now, and round 6 of the Porsche Club GB Sim Racing Series is away, and Amrik Sashdev uses that launch control and flies off the line. Really good start from him, makes a bit of ground. There's some cars going really wide in the background, almost 5 wide there. The number 56, that's Charlie Oliver just going down the inside. Let's see how they all behave into there. You can see everyone just really chilling it out. William Chadwick got a hit from behind. I think he's clipped Ryan Penny in front of him. Oh, there's a huge tangle in the middle. Everyone's just sat around waiting for cars to move out of the way. Hold the brakes, boys, hold the brakes. Don't go flying into the car in front. There's cars off on the exit. Paul Rieger's involved in that as well. There's cars even reversing. That was Johnny Elia trying to get out of the way there. Oh, there's more contact behind as well. Angus Archer's put it in the wall. But Amrik Sashdev at the front, well, it's almost night time where he's gone at the front there, Jack. But, well, he's made the run for it and avoiding the incident, as you've seen by Ryan Parkins, who's gained by 14 places. That's the important bit of race 2 at the moment, isn't it?
It really is, and we said at the start that aggression management and damage limitation really will be one of the key things in the races today, and it's just Ryan Parkins has made the most of it. He made sure he was nice and passive going into turn 1, but obviously he's now got that very familiar car of Austin Greatorex in his rearview mirror, so I'm assuming if Ryan Parkins goes for the move, Austin will try and do exactly the same. That was Mark Searle in the wall. I think he became a cropper at the start as well. I think he was almost 3 wide going into turn 1, managed to keep the position, but sadly got caught up in one incident, and it looks like he's got himself into another. But this is Andrew Marston now side by side, and it's Parkins going up the inside, dragging Greatorex with him, and I think Carl Sharkey is, or not Carl Sharkey, pardon me, Gavin Halls was looking to make the move as well. Dan Bathy is there as well. This big hit.
Marston.
That was, yeah.
Marston squeezed him. It was Dan Bathy that went down the inside, took the place. Very opportunistic stuff. James Cummings has gone deep there. And that comes back to it, doesn't it, Peter? Some of these guys run really sort of rearward brake bias, but if you put it too far forward, it's easy to lock the fronts into a corner like Parabolica.
Yes, it is. The brake bias is something very, very important in these 911 Cup cars. As we look at Ryan Perkins, he's really on the move in that 25 car with his championship rival Austin Greatorex in the 13 right beside him as they're going past Danny Jones in the Harrow.
Oh no, out of all people, don't hit the boss. You don't hit the boss, mate. Oh no, Mark would have been... Oh, actually, I've had a big blink out there for a second, everybody. Sorry about that. Mark Phillips having his moment. Catch it eventually. Just before that. Into turn
While
one.
you're doing that, Chaz, I just mentioned right left of shot. Oh dear, that's a big hit. That escape route that to his advantage. Now, he might have been given a slowdown penalty to allow him to get away from the carnage in front of him. So even if he had to slow down for a second or two, it was worth the risk, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. It seemed that way. Certainly seemed like he's...
I think what we have done...
Oh, sorry, boys.
I think what we have done is we've had a slight little connection issue on one of our internets. I'm not sure who it is at the moment, but I'm not really picking up much lag at all, but I'm struggling to hear you, Chaz, and I'm not sure what has happened to the stream, but we've still got this battle going on. Amrik Sashdev is still leading the way just about, though. We've still got James Cummings trying to make the move, and I've suddenly lost TV coverage, and I'm looking at the first chicane, so I'm not sure what's happened there. We'll try and keep you updated as best as we can, but the last thing we saw was Amrik Sashdev on the defensive line going up towards Parabolica with James Cummings still there. I'm just going to go off the timing screen at the moment, so we've still got Amrik Sashdev leading the way. James Cummings in P2. Charlie Oliver is falling back from these guys, but it looks like that delta's really coming down between James Cummings. They're almost side by side now going into turn one. I finally got my TV coverage back, but Amrik Sashdev is on side. Can he protect his his P1? He can, going on the way in, but he goes a little bit deep, has to go over the sausage curb and gives the place to James Cummings. He's now going to be he's going to have to be really defensive to not let Charlie Oliver by, but he becomes a cropper of that as well. So Amrik Sashdev has lost 1-2 positions, almost 3 now, because Ryan Parkins is just about there going into the second chicane. Ryan Parkins goes all the way around the outside, so he doesn't even wait for the second chicane. And Amrik Sashdev, it's gone from bad to worse. He's gone from first down to fourth, and he's going to be under threat of dropping even further back now.
Yeah, and this is not good news for Austin Greatorex. He's got stuck behind Danny Jones, and that's allowed Ryan Parkins in the 25 car to escape. So Danny Jones in the Haribo machine, the very distinctive livery number 5, as Austin takes a big look into the first Lesmo, and Danny Jones shuts the door on him hard going into the first Lesmo. So this is not what Austin needs, and there's a little bit of damage on the front right of that car. He might have got it in the early stages in lap 1, but Austin's really got to make a move and get past these cars if he wants to get a good result in this race, with Ryan Parkins in that white and red car making a move up the field.
Yeah, he really will, but now we're looking at Danny Jones looking to the inside. Can he get the move done? Going into Ascari is going to be tricky to go too wide through there. Very close, almost banging doors, but very clean driving from both of them. Amrik Sashdev does take the slower line through and lets Austin Greatorex by with Danny Jones, and he's now becoming a cropper to Dan Bathy as well. So Dan Bathy is looking for the move, but Dan Bathy's side by side with Gavin Hall. So 3 cars all trying to work their way past Amrik Sashdev. So we'll see what they can do going up in towards Parabolica. It's almost 4 wide. Actually, there's a big hit. I think that was Dan Bathy getting collected by Gavin Halls. Turned in a little early, and I've got to be honest, I think he did squeeze Gavin there as well. But that's a lot of chopping and changing up and down the order.
Sorry, Jack. No, that was Carl Sharkey. Carl Sharkey in the 77, just ploughing it up the inside and straight into the side there. So Carl Sharkey, an unusual mistake from him. Normally super clean, and he was making a move past, but it looks like Carl has actually got away relatively unscathed from that. So Carl getting away with that very luckily indeed. But what a shame for the others involved in that incident.
Yeah, it really is. We've just got confirmation that that Chaz, our fellow commentator, has had a slight issue on his end with the internet. But if you can hear us, and whether you come back at any point, you will still be able to keep up with the commentary. We'll try and update you with what's going on. But Amrik Sashdev now, pardon me, is still in P6 after losing out to Danny Jones. But Carl Sharkey and Stuart Clark are now going to be working their way up through the order. And we've also got to remember that Gavin Halls, after that incident, is trying to work his way back up as well. His next target will be Johnny Elia. We are only going to have be able to look at Amrik Sashdev for the moment until we can get the hardware issues sorted on our end. But I'm sure we can get a good view back from Amrik's car at the moment, because we've still got Carl Sharkey 1.5 seconds behind. You can see Carl there, and I think you heard Stuart Clark go screaming by. Johnny Elia is followed by Gavin Halls. Those two are closer than ever as well. 4 tenths separating those two, and Gavin Halls is only 8 tenths away from Johnny Elia. But we're now seeing Carl Sharkey get very, very close to the tail end of Amrik Sashdev, so I'm sure this will turn into quite a nice battle. But obviously it looks like Amrik has got maybe a tiny bit of damage on that car from an earlier incident. He might also have floor damage after skipping across all those curves, but it looks like Amrik Sashdev is going to have to lose out to Carl Sharkey going into Parabolica. Carl tried the move on the lap prior. He goes very wide. There's contact between the two of them. Amrik Sashdev just hits the rear left-hand side of Carl Sharkey. I think that was 2 cars going for the same piece of tarmac, although it did look like Carl did go into that corner a little bit too hard. And that's Amrik once again dropping down the order. And that is just bad news for Amrik so far, and I don't think it's going to get any better.
No, there's a little of a pity there for Amrik, because Carl Sharkey there, he got a good toe coming up the back straight there, coming into the Parabolica. But we saw a very similar incident there as on the previous lap for Carl Sharkey, mounting the curb on the inside. And really, if you're mounting the curb on the inside of the Parabolica, it's probably too late by that point. So Carl, unusual from him to make those mistakes, and that's gonna really cost him. He came into the round today third in the championship, but with Greatorex currently in 6th and Parkins in 4th, that's not good news for Carl Sharkey.
It really isn't, but Amrik Sashdev once again losing out to Mark Bow now, so the next person he will have to defend from is Chris Bowie. And it's really just gone from bad to worse with Amrik, and it's not that much of a bad thing that we've been stuck on the number 9 car, because we've seen lots of action, lots of battles, and unfortunately a lot of overtaking on Amrik's end. But well, I say unfortunately, we're going to see a little bit more now. So Amrik dropping down now to what will be P13 or what will be P12 now. So Chris Bowie taking up a position. He's got back to where he started in P11, and I'm just having a look up through the order. Ryan Parkins has now retaken the lead, has now taken the lead. So Ryan all the way up into P1, gained 21 positions from where he started. Charlie Oliver now in P2, he's gained 10 positions. Austin Greatorex, we did say we'll have to follow him up through the order. And we've been following him, and he's been following Ryan Parkins, because he's gained 18 positions and he's now in P3. James Cummings is still up there in the top few cars in P4. He's only lost 1 position from where he started. And Danny Jones and Gavin Halls, they've been nose to tail for a little while, and they've been working their way up the order together. So from where they started on the grid, both of them have gained 3 positions, so they're pretty much been stuck together.
I believe we have me back now, gentlemen. If you can hear me okay, if you can confirm.
We can indeed.
Nice to have you back, Chaz.
So sorry about that, everybody. Honestly, I've had a nightmare recently, and I won't lie to you, it's going to sound daft as hell, but I realised last week that one of my main issues with my internet was having fairy lights all around the entire room. Gives off a massive electromagnetic signal that can absorb your Wi-Fi. Honestly, Google it, it's a real thing. It's just happened with my printer as well, actually. Printer's on downstairs, and it seems to have absolutely killed the stream. But luckily, it didn't completely disconnect, so hopefully you can all still hear me if everyone is there. Very, very grateful for your patience. But guys, thank you very much for your professionalism as well in continuing, and Radio Simracersworld is going to definitely take off if you keep that up. There's some great battles going on, isn't there?
There really is. We were looking at Sashdev, and he dropped down the order massively. So he was in P1 for a little while, but he's dropped right the way back down to P10 now. We're looking at Gavin Halls going side by side with Danny Jones up towards Ascari. I think that was maybe on my end that I saw Danny Jones blinking in and out, but they're still side by side. Neither one of them wanting to get rid of the position. Danny Jones has got to go the long way around and loses out to Gavin Halls. So Gavin Halls picking up another position back up into P5. So those two swapping over. I said they were stuck together for a little while, and Gavin Halls has now been let out of the gate, and he's going to be pushing forward for possibly even a podium at this point. But I don't think Charlie Oliver is going to be on the radar just as yet. He's got 7.5 seconds to make up if he's in with a shout of a podium. But now he's in P5. He's going to try and keep that top 5 finishing position.
Some really, really good scrapping going on there between all of them, isn't there? I mean, some of the moves that you guys were describing as well, seems like some of it was getting a little bit scrappy here and there, but you know, you have to really have the push about you in races like this, and obviously with them being sprint races as well, Peter, there's no time to hang about, is there?
No, that is a good point. You've got to make the most. Danny Jones gets onto the grass on the braking, but very cleverly doesn't commit to the corner and decides to just take the long way around there. Very sick car, of course. Angus, one of the real-world Porsche racers, livery is an identical replica to his Boxster as he goes up the inside down into turn 1. Is he going to make it stick? No. It's such a long braking zone there to turn 1 that you've got plenty of time to make
At this end, guys, I'm really, really sorry. Something has gone awry with the streaming software, but we're going to try and carry the stream back so we can at least see pictures. Doesn't seem like it's all reconnected properly, but Ryan Parkins, though, leading this race. Seems like now Austin's had a bit of a moment and fallen back from him here, and well, he's got it all now, hasn't he, is Ryan?
We're struggling to hear you again, Chaz, on our end, so still struggling with the internet issues, but that is just what happens when you're in this profession. There's nothing much we can do about it, but we are luckily looking at Ryan Parkins, our current race leader. He's just crossed the line with 13 minutes just gone of the race, so still 7 minutes of the 20-minute race 2 still to go. He's just chalked lap 7 in the book, going on to lap 8. He's done a 1 minute 50.398, so pretty good pace from Ryan Parkins so far. He is leading the way by quite the margin now as well. He's got a 5-second gap to Austin Greatorex behind, so we're now seeing Austin Greatorex has promoted himself up into P2. Charlie Oliver losing out and now down into P3. James Cummings is still where we last saw him in P4. Gavin Hall's P5, and Carl Sharkey is now in P6. So Danny Jones losing out once again, so he's now demoted down into P7. He's also coming under slight pressure from Mark Bow now, 6/10 between those two. Oliver Carwood, what was that? It was Carwadine. There you go. I've struggled with that name all season, but I think I've got it right now. Carwadine. There we go. Amrik Sashdev is in danger of losing that position once again. That's side by side on the Delta. Apparently, it's 0 seconds or 0/10 between them, but just picked up the television feed again, and they definitely aren't side by side. I think that's a little issue on my end with Angus Archer blinking in and out. But you can see Amrik Sashdev a little further up the road. Angus Archer got the best seat in the house for these two, for this battle. So if those two in front of him start battling, he can pick up the pieces. You can see the intent of the damage, or the extent of the damage on Carwadine's car. So whether that will be hampering his progress up to Sachdev, but it doesn't look like it is, because those two are going to get ever closer. And Peter, this is really turning into a battle of attrition again.
It is, yeah. The race 2 is obviously always a little bit more attritional due to the reverse grid nature, with the faster cars having to make their way through the field rather than starting from the front. But just want to mention Ryan Parkins, his pace at the front has been electric. Lots of 1 minute 50s, and really the only guy anywhere near that kind of pace. But we did see him there coming out of the first chicane, turn 1 and 2. That chicane is so easy when you get on the power in first gear. Very, very easy to spin these 911 GT3 Cup cars, and even a driver of Ryan's ability, he had a huge oversteer moment there, and it looked pretty big from outside the car. So inside the car, it must have given him a little bit of a fright, with Austin Greatorex not too far behind, and of course with Parkins and Greatorex first and second in this reverse grid race. I think it's very clear who our championship battle is going to be over the course of the season.
Yeah, it really is starting to show now, but Carwadine doing everything he can to get past Sachdev. They were side by side for a little while, because I watched it swap over on the timing screens. It really is just a great tool, SDK. You can basically commentate just off the timing screen, so Radio SRW ain't that bad of an idea, if I'm honest. But Oliver Carwadine still giving chase to Sachdev, and now looking at Mark Bow, looking to the inside of Danny Jones. So Danny Jones is in danger of losing another position and being demoted down from P7 to P8. But Mark is dragging Chris Bowie with him as well. So in theory, the two Bows are following each other through Lesmo 1 and up towards Lesmo 2. And Danny Jones, yeah, he's going, his day's going from bad to worse. So it's almost like Sachdev and Danny Jones are sharing a very similar strategy, and it's not working for them. They're both losing positions, Peter, and it can't be long before we see these two mixing it as well.
Yes, exactly. And Mark Bowe is looking pretty strong here as well behind Danny Jones in that number 11 car, but sporting a little bit of damage on the front left of his machine. So that's maybe hampering his pace slightly. We're just seeing as our must apologise for, if you can see these pictures, they are jumping about slightly on the feed. while we've got a wee break in action, Jack, Oulton Park next weekend. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I really am, and Chaz did big it up for obvious reasons. It is his local circuit, and it really is part of him. And it's great to see that he's got that passion for motorsport still. And obviously, you're never shy of passion with Chaz because he does a great job of sharing it to everybody else that's watching the stream. But yeah, Oulton Park, it's one of those circuits that I am slightly familiar with, not necessarily as a driver, but as a spectator. I've walked around it, biked around it, everything like that. And it's quite a tricky circuit because it's full of elevation change, and no corner is the same as another. Because obviously you've got the Druids corner, the right-hander. That's almost double apex, but with very little runoff as well. So there's no room to manoeuvre at Oulton Park, which I think is going to be a great challenge for these guys. And it also throws sort of the that extra little bit of diversity in the mix as well, because we've been to Donington Park and Laguna Seca, where they are very tight and twisty technical circuits. Monza, which is mainly dominated by chicanes and straight lines, but Oulton Park's got that extra little bit about it. It's got a straight with lots of elevation change. It's got a chicane in there or a couple. It's got a very tight hairpin, and it's got a very, very steep hill at Knickerbrook. So I think it's just going to be that extra little bit for these drivers to get a handle on, and I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to that. What do you think that it's going to propose to these drivers or what do you think these drivers need to learn before the Oulton Park rounds?
Well, I have to say, I have to echo your sentiments about Oulton Park. It's one of the best racetracks in the world, in my opinion. The exit out of the Hizzy chicane, and you say up Knickerbrook, up that really narrow, steep hill. I was there for the British Superbikes round last year, and seeing these pack of superbikes going up there was amazing. But for these guys, it's going to be back to the same challenge that we saw last weekend at Laguna Seca. Very narrow, very tricky, and again, circuit knowledge and practice is going to be really, really vital for our drivers. So it's going to be fascinating. But it's great to be able to do such a great tour of the world's great circuits. We've had Donington Park, Laguna Seca, Monza. Monza is where we are today is a track that's actually used by a lot of teams. It's used by Porsche to prepare for Le Mans. So they take their 911 RSR here because it's the best kind of replica of the challenges of Le Mans. As we watch a good battle here between Danny Jones, Mark Bowe, and who's that behind them? That is Chris Bowie, who's doing a great job in 11th position right now. So but sorry folks for the pictures. They are jumping about a bit as Chaz is getting us all set up. But yes, Porsche do have quite a history here at Monza. Of course, they actually won one of the first ever Monza 1,000-kilometer races in 1969 in the Porsche 908 with Brian Redman and Joe Siffert.
I can tell your Porsche knowledge is way, way better than mine. I didn't even know there was a such thing as that. But it's great to see that obviously you bring that to us. Obviously, we wouldn't have known that. And that's just that extra little nugget of knowledge, which just brings the commentary to life. So it's great to have you on board with the team as well. And once again, yeah, sorry everybody, but there's nothing much we can do about it. It's just part of sim racing and part of broadcasting these races. But like you said, Peter, with this battle really is hotting up. These are in fact the closest drivers on the circuit at the moment. Mark Bowe leading the way after getting by Danny Jones, but Danny really is the meat in the sandwich at the moment because he will have the draft from Chris or from Mark ahead, but he's also got to worry about Chris behind. So going up towards Parabolica, it looks like Chris possibly has got the better run of the two. He goes to the inside, goes to the outside, and Danny Jones parks his car pretty much in the middle. He dabs to the inside again, so a little bit of questionable defensive driving from Danny Jones, but he does keep him behind, and he's also managed to get that extra little bit of momentum. He is on the inside line of Mark Bowe, but I don't think he'll get the move done going through Parabolica, but he has now got that very long start finish straight up towards the first chicane, and watching all this happen is Chris Bowie behind. So we'll see what these two can do, but I think that is the end of the race. That's gone immensely quickly. I wasn't quite expecting that to be the last lap, but Danny Jones crosses the line P8, and yeah, it's not the greatest race from Danny after losing the positions he gained, but wow, what a race all round.
Yeah, it was. From what we did see, it was really good, and well, we just have to give a huge props to Ryan Parkins, as Gavin Halls gives us a great post-race donut there. Ryan Parkins has been absolutely exemplary today. He's had about half a second over the whole field, but Austin Greatorex, he is thereabouts. He's had a good, really, really strong day as well, and it would just take one small mistake from Parkins and Greatorex is going to be all over him. So it's good to see a bit of a championship rivalry coming up as we see Mark Phillips on screen, who was involved in that big wreck and was wiped out in pretty catastrophic style going into turn 1 early on in the race.
Yeah, not the best start to the race for Mark, but he does cross the line nonetheless in quite a clean-looking car after that incident. So whether he's dived into the pits and taken one of the repairs that obviously are available for him, but he crosses the line P19, and I'm sure we will be able to run you through the results very, very shortly. But like you mentioned, Peter, these guys are getting closer between Parkins and Greater X, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do towards the end of the season. But we now do have race results, everybody. So Ryan Parkins crosses the line P1 after a dominating drive. So a great Sunday of racing for Ryan Parkins, followed by Austin Greater X, 8.6 seconds behind. So it really does show how big that gap was between those two. Charlie Oliver rounds out the podium in P3, followed by Gavin Halls and Carl Sharkey. James Cummings crosses the line P6, Mark Bowe P7, Danny Jones just about P8 after being chased by Chris Bowie for quite a sizable length of the race. Johnny Elia crosses the line P10, Ryan Penny P11, Stuart Clark, William Chadwick, Oliver Carwadine, Amrik Sachdev eventually crosses the line P15 after fending off the attentions of Angus Archer in P16. Mark Searle crosses the line in P17 and Carl Hazelton P18, and I'm hoping we can get down to the next row of results. We can indeed. Mark Phillips crosses the line. He's the last of the drivers on the lead lap, crosses the line P19. Andrew Marston was 2 laps down in P20. Dan Bathy P21, 9 laps down, and Paul Rieger sadly retiring very early on, 11 laps down. But quite a tricky one with obviously the issues we had, but we still had these guys battling nose to tail throughout the race, Peter, and I'm hoping in rounds, what will that be? It will be 7 and 8 at Alton Park. That's just it's going to be crazy. It's going to be one very, very busy weekend.
It will, yeah, and I think that the drivers that get Alton Park downloaded on their simulator, if they don't already have it, and get turning those laps, because Alton Park is, as we touched on, is a really unique challenge, and of course Alton Park is one of the real favourite spots on the calendar for Porsche Club of Great Britain Motorsport in the real world. It's a round that I know a lot of the guys who compete in that championship really look forward to going there. While we're on the subject of the real world of Porsche Club GB Motorsport, we must give a huge thank you to all of the sponsors who help out there. We've mentioned Pirelli earlier on in the broadcast, but also Petro Canada, who do specific lubricants and motor oils for your Porsche. Also Lockton Insurance, who are the world's largest privately owned insurance broker and specialist in customer service for owners club clients. So if that horrible day has come up where you need to renew your insurance, give Lockton a call. And finally, also Omologato Watches. Omologato Watches produce motorsport-inspired watches for petrol heads, and they are a British-based company. And best of all, the owner of the company drives a Porsche 911 GT3.
Some great insider knowledge there, and it's great to see that we've got those raft of sponsors on board. We really couldn't do it without them as well, and it just means that we've got that extra bit of support, and it makes the Porsche Club GB really what it is. But I'm just going to reiterate what Chaz said a little earlier on in the stream. We did hit 800 subscribers in this stream, so a massive thank you to everybody who was subscribed. It really does mean the world to us, and it keeps us motivated to carry on. And he did say also just to click onto the notifications, and it's not going to be long before you get one, but if you are receiving notifications later on today, we have the 3 Hours of Le Mans, the round 3 of the virtual Belcar E series here on Simracersworld TV. So it'd be great to see you along for that one. And well, the day's not over just as yet, because we've still got interviews. We've got Austin Lee and Ryan Parkins were sat in the waiting room. So what I will do is, sadly we brought Ryan in mid conversation, but Ryan, what a day! That's you must be over the moon with that.
I'm really happy, actually. It was so nerve-wracking the first race. The temperature kept going up, and I was so nervous on the brakes. And Dave was really good. Fortunately,
Yeah, it was a bit of a tricky day on our end as well, but we tried to keep up with you, whether that was even possible with your pace over the day. In terms of Austin Greater X, you two have been getting ever closer over the past few rounds. Is he a force to be reckoned with, do you think, or are you just going to keep a quiet eye on him going into rounds 7 and 8 at Alton Park?
Well, I'm just having a chat with him in the interview room, in the waiting room, and he's just really consistent, isn't he? He just keeps staying up there. He said he didn't have the pace, so he was just trying to keep it on track and just keep things chilled and stay behind and keep on track and come second. Racking up points. Only takes me to get hit in 2 rounds, and he's up there with the points. So it's gonna be good fun.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be an absolutely amazing season, and obviously that means now you're on the top of the championship. That means that you've got all the work to do as well, because it's literally all riding on you to keep it consistent towards the end of the season. And like you said, only a couple of mistakes can drop you back down the order. So what is going to be your strategy for the rest of the season? Is it going to be just get out of the way of everybody and try and build that gap early on, or let everybody take each other out?
It's probably a bit of both. Next week at Alton Park, I can't do much practice. I'll probably have like the Saturday to practice really. So I've just got to be really careful that week. And then like Spa, I feel like I'll be quite good at. Zandvoort, maybe not. And Brands Hatch, I know these guys have raced for most track days here at Brands Hatch. I haven't really done much there, so that's been good fun.
Yeah, it's really going to end up to be an absolutely amazing season with, if Monza's anything to go off, it should be a really close-knitted season, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to hand you over to Peter, because I'm sure he's got a couple of questions for you, but once again, well done, and what an afternoon.
Ryan, congratulations on a fantastic day's racing at Monza. Really well done. We were talking earlier on in the week about the tyre wear being an issue and that causing a lot of kind of oversteer problems, particularly around Parabolica in the last corner. Did that play out today in the 2 races?
Yeah, well, in race 1, when Dave Cameron got past, I let him sit in front for a few laps. I wasn't really, going to push him. I just wanted to see where he was strong compared to me, but it seemed he was strong everywhere. And because of that practice in the midweek, tyres overheating and the wear a little bit, I was really bad at Parabolica. So it's just I had to rely on him to make a small mistake or not get his apex right and just get the draft. But even then, he was pretty quick.
And of course, you had a bit of a, speaking of Dave Cameron, you had a bit of a coming together into the second chicane. Tell us, of course, it's easy for us to comment up in the commentary box, but what was it like from the driver's seat? What was your account of that incident?
At first, I thought he was bluffing. I didn't think he'd like hold it there for the whole, into the braking zone. So I thought I would, yeah. He got me. I come off the gas early. I braked a little bit earlier, a little bit softer, thinking he will brake a little bit later and then he'll dive in. Knowing full well he has got the inside, he's got the corner, and then we did go side by side. But then, obviously, it's just a wedge for me to go into, and I'm never going to make it on that. And it's difficult at the time. Hindsight, I should have stopped the car and let him go past. But then, I should let him just go earlier. But I tried to, it didn't work. It's difficult, isn't it? It's single car corner really.
It is, yeah. It's one line. I completely agree with you there. Now, before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your Sunday?
Yeah, well, first of all, my girlfriend, Angelica Pacello, I got her to watch turn 1 for race 2 to see how many people cut the course, because I felt really guilty of doing that with that incident in race 2. And also, I got some sponsors. There's Hunter Bridge Building, which is my old man. There's KBO Pictures, which is the cameraman I work for. And Ari Crew is my diary service who look after all my work for me. They sponsor me since last week. It's been really great, and thank you guys for the broadcasts. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in to see us, Ryan, and we'll see you next weekend at Alton Park.
Cheers. Arrivederci.
That was Ryan Parkins there, our eventual race winner. So a great job from Ryan, and some great questions. Peter, you really do address them very well. And what we've still got Austin Greatorex in the booth. Did we grab him in mid-conversation? We didn't this time, so we've nailed it with Austin. Austin, wow, what a weekend! It's very similar to Ryan Parkins' sort of afternoon. You did exactly what you needed to do, and you've kept it clean, kept it consistent. And yes, there was a bit of rough and tumble throughout, but you did exactly what you needed to do, and a massive haul of points for the championship.
Yes, thank you very much. I did what I needed to do. I couldn't keep pace with Ryan today. He had too much, and it was a matter of just trying to keep my mark, keep my line, stay focused, try not to make too many mistakes. The first race I was a bit fortunate when there was the contact between Ryan, Dave and I believe Will, and I tried taking my chance and get the slipstream, but I couldn't do it. And then race 2, it was miss the carnage and just try and stay focused and get a good result.
Yeah, it did seem like that was the outlook for the race. You did a great job, and you managed to avoid any sort of major contact as well, which I think was the idea. Going into Alton Park, what's going to be your strategy for that? Because it's quite a twisty technical circuit, so it's going to be one of those where you've got to really be on it throughout, and one slight little mistake will really punish your race.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to Alton, to be fair. I've raced it a few times on iRacing in different various cars, and it can be a challenge in whatever car you're driving. So it's just going to have to try and get a bit of practice in this week, and then try and learn the line and see if I can keep with mainly Ryan again, because some of the other fast lads obviously have problems or they're not been able to make it, but at the minute teams like myself and Ryan and Carl Shatterkey, to be fair, are the top 3 contenders looking at the points. So I think try and stay with them and just go for a good result, try and miss some carnage and keep it simple.
Sounds like a great plan, mate. It'll be great to see you 3 back on top again at Alton Park, but we're going to have to let you go. But before we do let you leave the booth, is there anybody you'd like to shout or thank while you're here?
Yes, I'd like to again thank my team, Quantum Racing. Doing a lot with them at the moment. Cobra Seats, they sponsor me for all my seats, for the sim rig and real life, and then Carl and Mark for everything they do, and you lot for all the broadcasting you do, even with the technical difficulties you had today. But again, thank you.
No problem at all. Thank you very much for joining us, and once again, well done.
Thank you, have a good weekend.
You too. That was Austin Greater X, our P2 finisher, and I'm afraid, Peter, we've got to wrap it up.
Yep, all good things come to an end, sadly, and must apologise for our technical issues, but I hope you enjoyed Simracersworld Radio. I think that's going to catch on, Jack. But yeah, brilliant racing, absolutely flawless performance that we're now coming to expect from Ryan Parkins. But as we touched on, Austin is not making it easy for him, and you know what? Any slight mistake, and Austin will be right there to capitalise. So really excited for Alton Park next weekend, and looking forward to calling it with you and Chaz once he's back with us online.
Yeah, it really was great rounds 5 and 6. But ladies and gentlemen, like we said, we've got to bring it to an end. So once again, sorry for the technical difficulties, but that is just what happened, and we'll make sure we get those sorted for the next stream later on this evening. But thank you very much for joining us on Simracersworld TV/Simracersworld Radio. But thank you very much for joining us, and I guess we'll see you later on today.